There are three trigger modes in the arpeggiator to determine how notes are triggered. In legato mode, the arp continues through all the steps as long as notes are played legato in a long fashion, and it'll re-trigger from the beginning if a staccato note is played. I'll show you how that works in a moment. And the next one is song position mode, where it follows the host song. And finally, in note trigger mode, every time a new note is triggered, the arpeggiator will restart. Let's leave it in legato mode for the moment and look at how it works with our little pattern that we have here. All right, so it's re-triggering every time the note starts. What happens if I lengthen this note and have it overlap? Let's watch what happens now. Because the notes are played legato, it worked through the whole pattern rather than re-triggering when this note was hit. Whereas if I switch this to note mode, it'll re-trigger when this note comes along. So you hear it jumping back in when that note hits. Versus in legato mode. Where it continues. The next mode is song position, and this follows the position of the DAW. So now we're going to see it work through all 16 steps. Even though these notes are short, it's going to work through the entire 16 steps throughout the course of each bar. There's not much happening on the last steps because there's not a lot of notes happening there, but let's look and listen. So you can see that it's flowing through the entire pattern and triggering when it needs to. And if I start the pattern, let's say right from here, it'll start, or let's say from here, it'll start on the last few steps of the pattern since I'm at the last beat. Let me turn my cycle mode off and we'll start. And you'll see that it'll jump and start from the end here. Same thing, I'll start it now and it'll continue from there. Versus if it's in the other modes, it'll just start from when the next note is triggered. It'll start at 1 when this note comes along. So that's an idea of how these modes work when you're working with program notes. Let's look at how this works now with incoming notes. Let me hide this for a moment and I'm just going to mute the bass part and we'll play along with the drum groove. And in legato mode, you'll see I'll hold down a note and as the next note is triggered, it won't matter. It'll continue playing through the pattern. Now when I go to note mode, what will happen is each time I trigger that new note, it's going to start the pattern from the beginning. And when I'm in song position mode, it'll go through the entire 16 steps, regardless of when I start new notes. So you see, whenever I start the note, it picks it up from wherever it is in the bar. Versus starting those notes separately, it would start at the beginning each time in legato or note mode. And we can further set how many octaves we want this to go over. It's been set to 1 octave for all these examples, but I can optionally set it to 2, 3, or 4 octaves and we'll get a wider range. Right now we're playing monophonically, so we won't hear a big difference, but when we get to chords, you'll hear them arpeggiated over a wider range. Stay tuned, and in the next video we're going to look at the different chord modes available over here for how the arpeggiation works.